Welcome back to You, Me, and NFP Unplugged. We are your hosts, Sarah and
Val. We are two imperfect people sharing about a perfect God, and this is going to be very raw and real.
Aren't we blessed that the Lord doesn't call the qualified, but qualifies the called?
So let's raise your glasses and let's get this show on the road.
Come,
Holy
Spirit. I'm cracking up because I actually spit when I said my part. I'm like, not qualified.
I hope we can see that on this.
So I hope so too.
If you're watching, comment below if you've seen Sarah's spit fly out of her mouth.
It really did. It was like not the qualified. It's really funny. Sorry. All right.
This is back to our YouTube show and not podcast. You get to see everything.
Exactly.
So I am really excited to introduce to all of you our guests for today. They are a married couple and they have one child named Luke and one baby on the way. And it's really exciting for me to introduce to you Hayden and Kayla, because Hayden and I go way back from when Brendan and I spoke at a purity retreat, essentially at a high school we got asked to speak at. And we talked and Hayden was there. And afterwards, he followed up with us and asked us a few awesome questions. And I think it was like a year later, I was doing youth ministry still, and I needed new core team members. And I always prayed for the right core team members, and God would always provide. And lo and behold, he put Hayden on my heart to ask to be a core team member. So I reached out to Hayden just from like the questions that he had asked us about the retreat. He was just a very mature and like fun young man. And he said yes. And so he helped on the core team lead many youth to Christ. And then actually after that became a youth minister himself for the past 7 years, and has walked many people to having many encounters with Christ, and just an amazing youth minister. And his beautiful wife, Kayla, on the outside and the inside, called me one day when I was shopping in the grocery store and was saying like, you know, Hayden and I are getting married and we want to learn about NFP. And this was, I think, a few weeks before they got married. And so I'm walking around the grocery store talking about NFP, cervical mucus, sex, all that stuff with Kayla. And I got her in I can't speak. I'm going to like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I got her connected with Sarah, and Sarah became her instructor. And like, that's the history behind this. So
you were in the egg department, right, Val, as you're having
the egg department, right? Talking about the cervical mucus.
Oh, nice.
But we're really excited because Hayden and Kayla are going to share a little bit about their journey into NFP, Kayla's conversion into the Catholic faith, and then I'm gonna butcher this. How do you say it, Kayla? Your hyperemesis.
Oh, Hyperemesis Gravidarum.
Thank you. We're gonna call that HG when I say it, if that's okay, because I can't pronounce it. But basically, it's a chronic sickness during pregnancy, and she'll talk more about that. So before we get on with that, I'll let Sarah do our little icebreaker.
Yeah, the pre-icebreakers, I have to promote Hayden and Kayla to most beautiful couple inside and out 2021. Right, I just had to say that. Okay, so we were preparing these questions and my son was like, Mom, why you gotta put questions in my Phillies hat? I'm like, we're a Braves fan. We're not even Phillies fans, but nonetheless, this is a very important hat tonight. So the icebreaker question, as if we need one. Let's see. Sorry, I had one of my daughters writing the questions out and she wrote like half the question. That one didn't make any sense.
I'll do a little improv. What is the rest?
Redraw. Okay, so what is one of the funniest things that you guys like to do together? If you want a new question, I can pick a new question.
The funniest thing?
Funniest or funnest?
Oh, I've got it.
The funniest.
We host every Tuesday night. We host the Diocese of Grand Rapids Catholic Ping Pong Club in our basement. So that's pretty fun, and people seem to be entertained when they find that out. I love ping pong so much that it sent me to the ER on my 20th birthday. So that's also
What?
pretty.
Stop. That's awesome.
Okay, but we do need you to tell that story now. How did ping pong send you to the ER?
I was going for a backhand, and I just was a little too engaged in the activity, and I blew my knee out. And we had to call an ambulance, and they had to carry me out of the basement on a stretcher because my knee was all backwards.
Hayden.
He loves telling that story.
Yeah.
Now, do you play too, Kayla? Do you play ping pong too?
Oh no.
Are you just the host?
Us girls just sit upstairs and chat and play with Luke. So
Okay.
we just hear all the ruckus going on downstairs in the basement.
And hope that you don't have to call an ambulance.
Right.
This is like the difference between men and women camping. I mean, I'm not totally opposed to camping, but the whole like idea of like the boys will camp and the girls will glamp kind of thing.
Mhm.
Totally feeling it, Kayla. I'm
Yeah, they get a little too competitive and just don't have that spirit. So
I think you're going to have to let Brendan know about that. He loves ping pong. And Bob, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 We have a couple priests involved in everything, so it's quite an event every Tuesday.
I love it.
Hey, Catholics have fun.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
fun people.
Yeah. That's
Very
the
fun.
biggest lie I think people think about Christians is like we're prude and don't have fun. It's like, no, we know how to have a really good time without regrets the next day.
That's right.
right. Yes, very true.
That was a great icebreaker. I think it was supposed to be the most fun thing you do together, but she wrote down the funniest. So hey, from Holy Spirit, it works. I'm glad you told the story. I love it. All right. What's next, Val?
Well, if you guys want to go ahead and dive into your story and just come Holy Spirit and just, go ahead and journey with everybody, share your story, take the floor.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll lay out a couple minute backstory of how all of this was even made possible. I was cradle Catholic and went to Catholic school for 12 years. But when I was growing up, religion wasn't really talked about in our family. In the Catholic schools that I was a part of weren't really the most devoted to the teachings of the church and being explicit of them and portraying them in a joyful light. So I went to the retreat that Val mentioned, mainly because I was chasing after a girl that was at the retreat, not really because I was there for the right reasons, but God used the retreat to bring some good out of it. So while I was at the retreat, Val and her husband shared about the church's teaching on chastity and how the church's teachings on chastity are more about saying yes to a greater good and a greater love rather than saying no. So when it was framed like that to me, I found that to be tremendously freeing, and that opened me up to living the Catholic faith in a more ardent manner. And from there, really pursued the church, pursued the faith in a more devoted way. And God led me the next 5 or 6 years of my life to becoming very committed to it and not being open to leaving the church or abandoning the church. And one of the last things I did learn about the church was the teaching on contraception and natural family planning. And I'd learned that, and I'd brought that into my interior life by the time that I met Kayla. So by the time I met Kayla, that was not something I was open to sacrificing. And that led to a lot of discussion between the two of us.
Can you guys hear us? Because you're frozen on our end. So I'm just making sure.
We can hear you.
Everything's good. You're not frozen, and we can hear you. So
Yep.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess
Check.
from there, because when I met Kayla, she was Protestant and she had very little exposure to the idea of contraception being a grave evil. But I was pretty transparent. We were transparent with each other from the get-go that this was something I was never going to waver on. And when you're transparent, that allows you to have conversations and discuss it. And if you're serious about one another, then you you owe it to one another to kind of do the research um, and be open in that way. So we uh, watched a lot of Catholic philosophy videos, a lot of Father Mike Schmitz. He used to do a lot of lectures on natural law and sexual morality through the lens of philosophy and everything. And I always found that very convincing. And fortunately, Kayla ended up finding that very convincing as well.
Yeah. So yeah, like Hayden said, I guess when he first brought up NFP, I thought he was crazy because I had been, I don't know, I'd grown up thinking that contraception is just something you do when you get married, you know, like I guess I saw myself waiting a few years once I was married and just to have like that us time and all of that. And so the idea of not like using any forms of contraception was really terrifying to me, especially because I was under the impression that NFP did not work at all. And it was just basically a way of saying like, you're probably going to have a million babies and all that. But then I watched that Father Mike Schmitz video, and after I saw the whole thing, I was like, well, crap.
And it's like a 3-hour video too.
Yeah.
It's not like one of the Father Mike Schmitz videos. It's like 7 minutes. Like this is like a retro Father Mike Schmitz video, and it was like 3 hours long. It was really really substantial.
Yes.
That's investment. That's major investment.
It was good. It was very good. So yeah, by the end of it, I was like, that's so true. Like all of what he's saying makes sense. And after watching that video and realizing that NFP was true and a beautiful teaching, I thought to myself, if the Catholic Church is right on this big, huge thing, what else could they be right about? So then that is what led me into like becoming Catholic and everything. But yeah, so that's kind of how I became like open to NFP. And I guess as time went on and I started like digging more into the theology of the body and everything and learning even more about it, I was becoming, my mindset, I could just like, there was a whole shift in like how I viewed pregnancy and how I viewed children. And instead of like having this thought of like, I want to wait this certain amount of time to have kids and I want to control how many babies I have, like I became like, oh my gosh, I want that big Catholic family and I'm so excited to be pregnant and like, let's just get to it kind of thing. Yeah. And so, yeah, just my whole like view on the family changed. So, and then that's kind of what led us into like, then, so basically I was really excited about getting pregnant. I thought to myself, you know, when I do get pregnant, we're going to have this, like, I'm just going to be beautiful and have this glow about me. And like, I was so excited to have this big Catholic family. And I kind of had this philosophy, which isn't a good one, I now realize, but I guess I thought like big Catholic families are the best. Like that's the best, you know, which I now like try to say big Catholic families are a blessing for sure. But, not necessarily the best because you don't know what you're called to until you're in it, you know. Right. So
and you don't know what other people are called to. You know, we can look at people with a pew with 9 kids and a pew with 2 kids, and we don't know what's going on in their life, and you know, so they could be the holiest family with 2 kids or no kids, right? And like and still be open, and be just as holy or more holy than the people with 9 kids. So that's a really good point that you made, that I think a lot of us in this Catholic circle kind of think the bigger the family, the holier the family, which is really not always the truth. And I love how you say a big family is a blessing and awesome still. Yes, because they're bringing souls for the kingdom, right? Like it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for touching on that.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess so once we got pregnant 5 months into marriage. We were waiting a little bit just because I was still in school and I had to graduate, but then immediately like we were like, all right, let's go for it. And I got pregnant. I was like over the moon, so excited. And then week 7 of pregnancy hit. And I was like horrifyingly sick. I think the first and second trimester I was throwing up at least 10 to 15 times a day.
Oh my goodness.
I ended up getting a kidney stone because I was so dehydrated, and I didn't stop throwing up the entire time.
Wow.
It was horrible. And
Yeah,
I had like a lot of like anger about it. It not only took a physical toll, but a very emotional toll because I was still in school for part of that time, trying to student teach and trying to be like kind of still a new wife, and trying to be like a good wife. But every night I was going to bed at like 8 o'clock or earlier because I felt so awful. And I wouldn't make him dinner. Like I wouldn't like hardly wanted to eat anything. I just felt so like guilty too about it. But turns out I had Hyperemesis Gravidarum. So, yeah, that was really hard. And I think it was hard on him too, in his own way.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of perspective.
Yeah.
But a lot of Subway, a lot of Arby's. It worked out in the end, but yeah, it was an experience.
It was.
Like
It was.
here, you're married and now we're just throwing this huge cross at you,
Yep.
But,
Yeah. So, what?
I was just going to say, during that time of difficulty, where did the Lord's mercy shine in your life? Because I always feel like when there's darkness, we can also see the light greater. Like, where were those moments that even when you're in your deepest despair, where you did see the Lord's mercy shining upon it?
Well, Hayden was great, first of all. He is probably one of the most patient people that I know. So he was always, you don't even know how many massages I got from that. It was fantastic. But yeah, just through like, I guess even like in the midst of that suffering, we were just so excited to be still welcoming a child into the world. And we always had to kind of keep that perspective of the fact that there was going to be an even greater, more beautiful gift coming out of that. And this is only temporary, So that is always like kind of what we focused on too.
Yeah. Like after the passion, there's always that resurrection, right? Like, but the resurrection comes after the passion.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not going to last forever. I knew that. And even though it felt like it was lasting forever. But yeah, so it was, and as time went on, like the doctors, because this was my first pregnancy, and I at the time didn't have a lot of good Catholic friends yet, or even friends that were like just, I didn't really have anybody who was pregnant or had babies in my life. So I didn't really understand at first just how like not normal my pregnancy was. So I wasn't getting the help that I needed at first until like later on. Then I started like being like, I feel like this is just not going away. Like this isn't just morning sickness,
Right.
And then I got like help from doctors and was able to like get on medication. That helped a lot. It didn't take it away, but it helped. So there was a little bit of relief there. But yeah, so that was a rough pregnancy. And so I was very like gun shy to get pregnant again.
Rightfully so.
Well, because then I also had a really traumatic birth experience. So nothing was going great, but yeah, like I ended up having an emergency C-section with Luke, and I just was not expecting that at all. I was suddenly just being like rushed into the surgery room and did not know what was going on. And I didn't handle that well, and they had to like put me under because I was puking still, and didn't even get to like hold him right away, which and that was just unfortunate.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I was definitely nervous to get pregnant again, and we were trying to discern like how like what's a just reason for like how long should we wait to have another kid, because like fear isn't necessarily a just reason, but also like there are these health concerns and like all of this stuff. So it was a lot of discernment. And then I think we both were very like, when you say at peace, when we decided to get pregnant again. We waited like a year and a half.
Yeah, we were on the same page, and I think the timing was perfect. And right when we basically stopped using NFP and tracking everything, it happened again. So I guess it's just proof that NFP does work very well.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so after a year and a half, I was like, I guess I was under this impression like people always told me, every pregnancy is different. So there's a great chance that you're going to be perfectly fine this time around. And so I was like, yeah, I shouldn't, wait forever, because I might have a great pregnancy. And then I got pregnant with this little one, and week 5 hit. And I was like, oh crap, here we go again. It was pretty bad. So yeah, I ended up, I don't know, I think it was sometime during the first trimester that we had to go to the ER, because I hadn't kept liquids down in a long time. And I just kept throwing up. So yeah, then I actually started getting on IVs to like keep my hydration up. So, and I got on medication right away this time, because I told the doctors like I'm prone to hyperemesis, and so I would like to get on these. I was on 3 different medications to kind of keep the nausea at bay. And actually I've been doing a lot better this time. The past like month or so I've hardly thrown up. I'm still on a little bit of medication just to keep it down. And like this morning I did actually throw up for the first time in a long time, but it's been a lot better now. Like I think that like extreme sickness is hopefully going away, which never happened.
Praise God.
So, yeah, I'm very happy about that. But I
have to interject. I just love that you can like smile so beautifully while you're talking about throwing up. Just I threw up this morning.
It's actually funny because I was throwing up so much around Luke, he's now almost 2. He would I would have a bowl all the time with me in the living room, and he would go pick up the bowl and go blah, blah, pretend he was throwing up because he saw me do it so much.
Aww, yeah, they mimic us. Oh my goodness.
It was cute, but kind of gross.
Definitely liked the mood. I appreciated it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, and Kayla, you said, speaking of what Sarah said, just that you're smiling and just, I mean, when we got on here the night, you even said you weren't feeling that great tonight, but yet you feel so called to share this information with others to help them journey, that it's just beautiful that you're sacrificing your time when you don't feel well to even share this news, and then to put a smile on your face and do it. I mean, just thank you guys.
Yeah,
it's a really great example of how we talk a lot about the joy and the suffering. I feel like Val and I talk about that a lot, and that's a common theme that people talk about, and you guys definitely radiate that, smiling and kind of almost making light of the situation is definitely not underplaying what you're actually going through. And so I'm here to kind of give you the kudos and give you a pat on the back to say, you make this look really beautiful, but you really are suffering, and you're doing an incredible job of just showing the joy that comes in suffering. And that's exactly what happens when we follow the will of God. And so my one question that is kind of burning, probably because I work so much with couples, is can you give one more little piece of advice on how, was there something special that happened where you felt yes, it's time? Because there's always that question about, I mean, she gets it a lot too, but it's is it just, or is it not? Is it really serious for us right now to be using NFP to avoid pregnancy, or is it not? Can you share anything that comes to mind with what helped clarify that it was time, it was the Lord's will for you to be open again? Because clearly it was, well, A, because you're pregnant, and B, back to the joy and the suffering, you radiate that, which is another affirmation that you're in to Val.
Spirit.
Bullseye of his will, as Val always says. So any advice for people listening?
I mean,
I know.
it was tough for me to get to that point as well. Just having seen my wife go through that, and then culminating with the birth experience, it definitely traumatized me a little bit too. Sometimes I feel like it's almost harder to see the people you love going through suffering than to you yourself go through suffering. So I had to come to terms with the reality that I would have to watch that and observe that again, and then potentially experience some difficult culmination at the end as well. But really, suffering and difficulties in life is unavoidable. And are you going to try to prolong a type of surface level happiness in your life as long as it can, and try to just sweep suffering under the rug? Or are you going to embrace it for what you believe to be a greater good? And we really didn't have a substantial reason to continue postponing pregnancy. It was really just, like Kayla said, it was kind of a fear in the back of my mind. So once that is grappled with, and the reality of it is, you come to terms with it, and do not be afraid. It makes it much easier.
And with that,
Yeah,
was there prayer involved too? Like, I know you two are prayerful people. Was there a lot of prayer involved with that discernment?
I believe didn't we make a novena to, who was that?
Saint Therese, right?
Saint
Sounds good to
Therese?
me. Some saints, so many saints.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we were definitely praying about it a lot, and I had been actually during this whole time that we were prayerfully discerning it, I was doing I've been doing a lot of pro-life activism lately, and I was at a march in Lansing, and I'd been thinking about it a lot, and I don't remember exactly what happened there, but there was a lot of speeches going on. It was a lot about the unborn, and there was one woman who went up and who was speaking about kind of giving everything to God when she got pregnant. And I was like, it just hit me right there too. And I was like, yeah, I think it's time for us to try again. Even though I'm nervous, but I just felt ready. And then I went home and I talked to Hayden a little bit more about it, and he was like, yeah, I feel ready too. And so I just felt the time. And I think that now, as we continue discerning in the future, I think originally with NFP, we were kind of thinking yeah, we're just going to keep going forward. We're going to have a big family. And I think now that reality has sunk in, we're just going to be taking it one pregnancy at a time, and not have any ideas of how many kids we're going to have, and just kind of see where we are mentally and physically after each one, and just let God do this thing. So
And so at the end of that call, that feeling that you were being called to be open, even though you were afraid, I know, be not afraid, but from the human perspective, there is that little bit of real. Yeah. You still had peace, right? So was that was the underlying current, was one of my favorite lines is the peace that surpasses all understanding, right? Was that your experience where there was that little bit of human fear, but underneath it all, you felt the peace in that call? Okay.
Yeah, I was very nervous, just emotionally thinking oh no, I'm gonna have to be going through all that nausea again. And I was especially nervous having a kid already, because I was always laying down, and I want to be a good mom, and I want to play with him and take him out places, and so that was a little nerve-wracking for me. But yeah, no, once, especially when I was at that pro-life march, I just knew that that was like what God was calling us to. And even though I was nervous, I was really excited and yes, peaceful about it. And was very excited to have another little one for Luke to play with. So yeah.
Yeah, there's no magic solution, or there's no magic formula or solution of knowing the right timing. It's really just a day by day trust. And also having a first child to experience all this with, he's so hilarious and ridiculous that it makes light of a lot of situations that might have been difficult, like the first time around. If Kayla's on the couch and she's puking and you don't have a little kid running around, it's easy to focus on that and dwell on that. But when you have a kid running around, it's you almost don't have time and energy to focus on some of the difficult stuff. So it's like, okay, well, we'll just get through this. And I think young children really can bring the joy of the Lord into a situation that only their innocence and their smallness can bring.
Such a good point.
Hmm.
And I love how you both. Okay.
No, I'm really laughing because I'll be honest, I forgot to turn my airplane on the mode. So I'm getting these text messages and I'm swiping it up. And so I'm not like actively trying to show you guys my armpits tonight. I'm just trying to swipe it away.
At least like you're staying on with us and you haven't swiped off Zoom.
Leave it to me.
I find it interesting too, when you guys talked about discernment, that you said we were both on the same page. I always find that, at least with Brendan and I know, Sarah, you've talked about it with Pat and you, sometimes one of us is like feeling open, the other one's not, or vice versa. But when you're going through discernment and you both feel that openness, like that's like a big green flag. I feel like, when the Lord leads you both to have that openness at the same time, it's like, okay, like how can we ignore that? Right. And for those of you out there that may be listening, where one of you really desire to have a baby and maybe the other spouse isn't there yet, just pray for God to convert their heart. Pray that if it's meant to be, it'll just happen anyway, and just keep communicating and be transparent with one another and talk about that every month. I just find it interesting and awesome that it hit you both like at the same time.
We did do that. Like we were talking like every month a little bit about it before. It's not like we were on the same page immediately. Like, I think he was kind of more of like, whenever you're ready, like I'll be ready kind of thing. Because he knew like,
pretty much.
Yeah, he knew like what I had gone through and was kind of like leaving that up to me a little bit more. So I was the one who kind of had to get on board. But yeah, then once we were on the same page, we got pregnant right away.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
I love y'all's story.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So great. I know. Sorry, I cut you off, Val.
No, go for it. I talk too much.
Well, was there anything else in particular you wanted to share? I said in particular really funny. I said in particular.
It's like you're gonna tickle someone.
I know. It just came out really funny. Is there anything else in particular that you want to share regarding discernment or wanting to puke during pregnancy, or maybe encouragement for other moms who have gone through this and just trying to like stay strong and following the peace that surpasses all understanding as really the guide to the will of the Father, joy in suffering? Anything else that you want to share before we close it up?
I'll say that Catholic community is extremely important.
Something that's helped us the second time around is through the Catholic Ping Pong League as one of the avenues. Have found some great Catholic friends. So this time around, some of our other couples we're friends with are also pregnant, and it's just having that support system, those friendships, those Catholic friendships where you can be open and transparent and have those discussions and share difficulties together and pray together and all that is a tremendous
blessing. And like Jesus says, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And part of that is going through it with other Catholic people and knowing that you're not alone. And that is a great amount of joy and peace through the members of the body of Christ.
Amen.
Huge point, because like the secular world would be like, what are you thinking? You know, like, this is crazy. Why are you going to put yourself through that again? You know? And so exactly to your point, when we don't have that community to support us, we can start hearing some of those lies a little bit louder and in ourselves. Right. And so you've nailed it. Like, having that community to walk with us and to be able to journey with us as we are walking this road of what we believe to be true is sanctification. And the sanctification in our vocation does not come easy. There is a huge suffering component to it. And so it's beautiful that you bring that up, because I think that we fail to mention that a lot, of how important it is that the community, whether we have it, when we have it, a lot of times we forget to talk about it. It's just like our right hand. So it's beautiful that you bring that up and remind us to be grateful of that, because it really does guide our journey and how our experience is. So thanks for bringing that up. Anything else, Val?
The only thing that's resonating with me, like, bring up, besides dropping all my papers, is just that when you guys were dating, and Kayla, you were Protestant, Hayden, you were Catholic, you had that openness to be transparent and talk about your faith together right away. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said there's, like, if you care about someone so deeply, you need to be transparent and have those conversations. And I just think it's beautiful to see you so open right now in your marriage, but that stems all the way back from your dating to when you were open just to having conversations. So that openness to life really started with that openness in your hearts to really hear the other person out and their perspective out, and to being open to what God had for you guys, and even changing your faith walk, Kayla, which I know wasn't super easy to do, but to have the guts to be able to do that, first of all, you had to be open to that. And so I just think there's so much beauty and fruits of it now, even from the beginning of your dating life.
Right.
Yeah, God is good.
Nope, that was good, Val. Yeah.
So I think we'll, if you guys could send us that Father Mike's video that you watched, like the 3-hour long one, if you can find it.
We'll try to find it. That's buried way deep on the YouTube.
If you can find it out there, then maybe we can link it at the bottom. So if there's anybody else kind of maybe not on board with NFP or the Catholic faith, they can also watch that and hear what he has to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Try to find it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys. I think that's
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and your beautiful smiles are a gift to us and to whoever might watch this. And thank you for being just an example of being docile to the Spirit, and just embracing the cross and living for the peace of God that surpasses all understanding and can really pull us out of fear and into his will. So thank you again. Blessings on you and that precious little soul that's growing, and keep us posted.
Yes,
Thank you.
will do. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
guys.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
So Val, I'm not sure about you, but I'm thinking Kayla needs to be my fashionista. I'm not even sure if that's the right definition, but
yeah, she's so cute, and she could definitely help you, me, and NFP out a little bit. Get us out of our t-shirts.
Struggling a little bit. And I'm thinking we need to have like a shout out to the USCCB for their NFP Awareness Week with the posters and the images. We promote Kayla and Hayden for NFP Awareness Week 2022.
Yes, they're like the model couple outside and inside. So come on, USCCB.
That's right. Kayla and Hayden for posters.
King and queen of NFP Week.
I love it.
They are on our website. Their picture is on our website.
That's right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I do wish that I had like really do. Kayla, I hope you're not embarrassed by this talk about your feminine beauty. But hey, Annalie helped us understand how important the visual imagery and the beauty, I'm already butchering all the language, but like the visual beauty of promoting NFP, right? It's important.
Yes.
This is God's beauty.
Beauty points to God.
It's God.
His creation. Yeah.
Mercy moments?
Mercy moments. What's your mercy moment of the week?
Well, because of my newly boom-de.
Is this the announcement?
Maybe. I don't know when we're gonna put this out. I'll be like really boom-de.
By the time it gets up.
That was not an insult on you. My mercy moment, I know. It was putting Savannah to sleep and really feeling like I felt a little baby flutter.
That is
because I've had to delay the doctor's appointment for forever. And it's just a gift, a piece of mercy to lay there and feel like I felt a little
yeah, a piece of mind too. Just feeling that sweet little baby. What was that?
Like a butterfly flap, or like I try to think of like a way to describe those first few
No, a butterfly flap is the perfect description.
Quickening, I think, is like the technical term,
Yeah,
but it is. It's like
quickening means. I mean, the butterfly flap is. That's what it feels like. Yes.
Yeah, so it's really sweet, and I just kind of, whoop,
I'm
mercy.
so excited for you. Oh, I
think reflecting on it helps you realize that mercy comes in all like different shapes and sizes. You know what I mean? Like when we think of mercy, we think of obviously the great divine mercy, Christ himself, and like the salvation of the world and forgiveness of sin, and like the greatest grandiose mercy. But it's helpful to like sit back and think about how he bestows mercy on us like all day.
Yeah.
If we just think about it and give that glory back.
In little ways, how great is our God to be able to come to each of us individually and give us little glimpses of his mercy and his love. I mean, like that even says more about how infinitely good God is, that we're worthy enough to him to give us those little glimpses of mercy.
I know. And especially like where, we know that, what's the scripture where it's like, he knows when you sit and when you stand, and like all of your thoughts.
The hairs on your head. And
like knows everything that you're thinking before you even say it, or really before you even think it. And it's like, that's kind of what this was, because I mean, I wasn't really nervous. I definitely wasn't like necessarily praying like, oh Lord, give me a sign that this baby's okay.
Right.
It was more so like this subconscious thought of like, kind of in the back of my mind, well, I haven't had my doctor's appointment yet, so I'm praying that everything's kind of okay, but really not thinking too much of it. And there it happens. And it's like another sign that he knows it all.
Yeah, he went before you and knew you needed that.
Yeah. It's really special.
I love how he goes before us.
What about you?
Well, mine's not as exciting. Mine was like painting bedrooms this week in ball cap hair. And so my mercy item is
dry shampoo.
Right here, dry shampoo. And it's gone because I used about half of it on my hair tonight because I was going to take a shower and I didn't have time to shower.
I love it.
Kind of my mercy item, but no, a real mercy moment was this week. I feel like Brendan and I were just a little off. Like we've been really on. So when you have that little off moment, it's like, and I feel like I judged something of that he did to be like bad intentions. And I was totally wrong in that. And I really like hurt him by that. So I just felt like awful about it. Well, the next day we're driving to mass and on their Christian radio station, like the kids are so loud in the car, you know how it is. And so like you can barely hear the radio, but like you want to hear it. They're like, something for a strong marriage. And God's mercy, I heard the perfect thing. It was like, if we want a strong marriage, we need to assume that our spouse has the best intentions. And so it just hit me right where I needed to be hit. And I was like, you know what? I need to assume the best. Like, and I didn't, and he was doing the best and I hurt him. So it's just like God's mercy to speak into me, like, Dale, assume the best about your husband, you know, like, so it was just a little, and I didn't hear anything else of the message. Like she was still talking, but that was the one piece where it was quiet enough to hear for a few seconds. So I feel like that was God's mercy this week in my life.
I love the timing. How perfect.
Yeah. Like you said, those little ways.
Okay, next time you might as well just pull out your Banaka can and just shoot it that way.
I'm glad I did shoot it that way. If I just put that in my mouth.
That's hysterical. I do hope that you can interject the picture of your hair before the dry shampoo.
Oh yeah.
It actually looks really
do
good.
that. Because I showed you the picture of what I was gonna look like tonight. Before I actually tried to do my hair. I'll put that in. So
it's beautiful.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a
Thanks
wrap.
for joining us, and please subscribe and get the notifications so you know when we put a new video out. Share it with a friend, because we know God multiplies things if we can bless one person, and he can use you to bless another person, et cetera, et cetera.
All right.
Share NFP together.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Adios.
Adios.
Bye.